We've heard on Wesley Impact today from one who journeyed a difficult road. Now let me turn to Scripture now. Lazarus is clearly close to Jesus, and Jesus is close to the whole family, including Mary and Martha. It appears to be a regular stopping place when Jesus was passing through that way. Let me read to you from John chapter 11, 32 through to 44. When Mary reached the place where Jesus was and saw him, she fell at his feet and said, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." When Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who'd come along with her weeping, he was deeply moved in spirit and troubled. "Where have you laid him?" he asked. "Come and see, Lord," they replied. Jesus wept. Then the Jews said, "See how he loved him." But some of them said, "Could not he have opened the eyes of the blind, have also kept this man from dying?" Jesus, once more deeply moved, came to the tomb. It was a cave with a stone laid across the entrance. "Take away the stone," he said. "But Lord," said Martha, the sister of the dead man, "by this time there is a bad odour, for he's been dead for 4 days." Then Jesus said, "Did I not tell you that if you believe you will see the glory of God?" So they took away the stone. Then Jesus looked up and said, "Father, I thank you that you have heard me. I knew that you always hear me, but I said this for the benefit of the people standing here, that they may believe that you sent me." When he said this, Jesus called in a loud voice, "Lazarus, come out." The dead man came out, his hands and feet wrapped with strips of linen and a cloth around his face. Jesus said to them, "Take off the grave clothes and let him go." Now, John's Gospel has a very, very high view of Jesus. And at the same time, there's also a rawness in that we see his humanity in profound ways also. Mary is full of consternation that Jesus didn't come earlier, and most of all, we see Jesus weeping. When we read that most short verse in Scripture, Jesus wept, I find those very, very helpful words. For me, this account reveals, in a most profound sense, the compassion of Jesus Christ. Now, the Greek Stoics believed that compassion was a sign of weakness, not of strength. It's a Christian input to see compassion in a strong sense, not a weak way. And Jesus, at the same time, is not unrelated to pain. It's not that he doesn't want to understand it. I find that quite helpful. And the tears of Jesus indicate in some deep sense God's identity with us in human pain. Now, I found when I was talking to John just a few moments ago that it's important to recognise that we share pain. This experience of Lazarus being raised from the dead is quite unique. Jesus is not raising people from the dead everywhere and anywhere. There are only 3 occasions in the Gospels, and on each occasion they died again. It was only Jesus who was raised from the dead for eternity. What an account we have here as we move closer to Easter. And we see the inner character of Jesus displayed in tears. And I find that so helpful because, first of all, he's bothered about our human pain. He's bothered about us when we're in our places of sorrow, when we're suffering, when we know what it is to be journeying with news that is not going to be easy, when we know that the end is not going to be one of those happy ending stories when we can just say, and so it all turned out well. Life is not a fairy story. Life is deep. At times it has its hurt, it has its pain, but thank God, through the most deep pain possible, we can look in the face of God and know that he never leaves us nor forsakes us, as Scripture says. And in the raising of Lazarus, I think there's something that really is important for us to share, to understand, and to know. And that kind of faith is important for every one of us.